live and now.
Hey guys, thanks so much for joining us tonight to talk about the next great read. We are super excited. I'm Lauren Stetler. I'm the librarian at Keller Middle School, and I've been there this is my 5th year, 10th in education, and I'm super excited to talk about books tonight. Carrie?
Hey, it's Carrie Harris from Hillwood, and I think this is my 6th year as a librarian. I've been teaching for lots and lots more years than that. So yeah, I'm really excited. I hope this is as fun as I want it to be.
And I'm Misty Shea. I'm the librarian at Central High School. I have no idea how many years I've done everything, so I apologize for that. But I've been a librarian and a teacher, and I'm just so excited to talk about books.
All right, so Misty is going to give us our first book here. So we're going to give it a second to toggle over.
So while they're setting up their slides, this is Audrey Wilson Youngblood. I'm moderating the chat. If you cannot see a chat in your window, if you click on your profile, so make sure you're signed in, then click on your profile button in the upper right-hand corner, then click Create Channel. Then you should be able to type and see the chat.
Oh, go me. No.
Also, when you're joining us, if you would please add in the chat, if you're a student, what school you go to, or if you're a teacher, what school you teach at, or just give us a shout out, so we can see who's here.
All right, and in case you want to follow us on social media, on Twitter, we have our Twitter handles up here. We would love a follow, and we would love for you just to tweet out and tell us what great book you've read recently. So the first book we're going to start with is The Field Guide to the North American Teenager by Ben Philippe. So this is a realistic fiction book, and I'm not going to lie, people, this book made me like giggle snort. It was so hilarious. So the main character is a boy from Canada. His mom, he's African-American. He loves all things Canada, cold, hockey, anything, snow, skiing. And his mom gets a job in Austin, Texas. So he gets off the plane and he says funny things like, it looks like someone threw up orange. Because if you've ever been to Austin, Texas, it's burnt orange everywhere because of UT. And so this kid, from the north, from the very, very north, has to go to a regular Texas high school, and it makes no sense for him. And so he starts creating this field guide, and he keeps it with him. And it's almost like a scientist observing wild animals. And he has entries in his field guide about jocks and about cheerleaders and about how crazy Stephen F. Austin was to create a city in the hottest place on earth. He has such a great, rich sense of humor that I was laughing the entire time. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I laughed. And of course, there's a little bit of like, he has someone he likes, and he has people he doesn't like, and he's just trying to survive high school. But I think the biggest, what makes it so hilarious is that he's just this Canadian who is seriously just trying to understand Austin, Texas, and high school in Austin, Texas. And it made me laugh the whole time. And I mean, I don't mind Austin, Texas, but I laughed because everything from homecoming to prom to things that he never even thought of, it all comes out. And to hear someone's point of view from just an outsider, I'm not kidding. I laughed the whole time.
Yeah, so I've read this book as well. And I also did a little bit of surfing about Ben Philippe, because he really was, he's a Black Canadian who came to Austin for real in his real life. This is not an autobiographical book, but he did do this. He came as a college student and he went to UT. So he came down from Canada and he experienced all of the burnt orange and Texas things that no Canadian had ever experienced before. And I did look on his website. He's just hilarious. The thing, like, his favorite Disney movie, he said, was Beauty and the Beast, because he wanted all of his furniture to come to life, not in the Toy Story kind of way, because that was creepy. He wanted a wardrobe to come to life. So it's just goofy stuff. He does have another book coming out in September called Charming as a Verb. So I haven't read much about that. But when Ms. Shea was talking about coming to Texas and experiencing the heat, a quote from the book is, he says, "I mean, good God, this is inhuman. Who did this? What sick wagon of explorers stopped here and went, guys, the surface of the sun is looking a little out of reach for the horses. Let's just settle here. So, I mean, it's just snarky, goofy, fun awesomeness. And I think boys would like it just as well as girls. But
oh, for sure. I loved it. I loved it. Even though it was a boy main point of view. There's another main character named Madison, who is that typical wants to be cheerleading captain. She's also a very strong personality in the book. So you get a lot of all the worlds. So I really enjoyed it.
And one more thing about Ben Philippe, he's a huge Gilmore Girls fan, which I thought was extremely hilarious.
Oh, how funny. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So I thought that was funny.
Gilmore Girls, go him.
All right, Aurora Rising. So I wrote a little blurb here because I'm not super cool like Misty and can do it off the top of my head. So Tyler Jones, in a stroke of heroism, saves Aurora O'Malley, who is cryogenically frozen for 200 years and floating in the void of space. While Tyler was saving Aurora, he missed his graduation from the academy and his chance to hand select an A-list crew for missions. Now this complete group of misfits, armed with wit, nothing in common, and a whole lot of sarcasm, must try to save the universe from an oncoming war, a war in which Aurora seems to be the catalyst. There is so much going on, so I tried to keep it as short and concise as possible to try to explain this book, but I can't tell you how much fun this one was. Usually sci-fis are pretty serious, and they're talking about a lot of really big adventurous stuff, but there's so much voice that each character brings, and they're so sarcastic. It's such a fun read. It is really like a big adventurous ride to go through. I just had a ton of fun, and it's something I am excited about for this one is that so this is the first in the series. So the second one, its book birthday was today, and I was the first one to get it in audio from Fort Worth Public, so I'm super excited. I'm already started on that, and it's just as sarcastic and hilarious as the first one already. So that one is out today.
I have a question. So you started listening to the audio. I heard that it was like actors acting it out more than just reading the book.
Yeah, this one is so fantastic to listen to. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a paper copy. I love to just sit and read. However, I would highly recommend this one in audio because it goes through the viewpoints of a bunch of different characters, each person that's on this crew, and each one of them has they're different species or races and different planets and stuff that they're from, and different voices. And so every voice that is on there is different. And they even have this guy who's like at a suit from having some disease that he had early on in life. And so every time you hear his voice, it's like through a calm, which is cool. And it's really neat. And in between each chapter or switch in point of view, they have this little directory. So it's like almost like a handheld computer, I guess. It was like our phones. And it has its own voice and its own wit and sarcasm, but it gives you an update and helps keep track of all the sci-fi stuff to kind of rein everything in, which is cool.
So y'all in the chat, raise your hand or speak up somehow if you know what these authors wrote before Aurora Rising. They really became more famous with another series.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious to see if anybody else knows. Type in the name of it or raise your hand if you think you know.
Or if you're really good at looking, it's on the front of this book.
Cheaters.
Oh, well, there is that. But the true readers did what I asked. They didn't cheat, Misty.
Wow. Well, I just know Jay Kristoff. I follow him on Twitter, and he is so stinking funny on Twitter. I enjoy following him on Twitter.
I was telling them earlier that he puts up things on his Instagram because he writes some books that are not always appropriate for teenagers, and the parents write him letters about why they think no kids should read his books, and he puts screenshots of the emails up on his Instagram for laughs because he's not writing for young children.
Oh my gosh, he wrote Lifelike too. I love that book too. See what you did to Carrie Harris.
And then Amy Kaufman wrote something with Megan Spooner called Unearthed that I also read. They're all sci-fi and they're amazing.
I love
And
it.
then Aurora Rising just has funny, snarky, goofy stuff as well. Of course,
Yeah.
I have a quote. I don't have a quote for everything, I promise, but this one I do. They're going back and forth. They're about to fly off in the ship, and one of them has this lucky thing that she's holding because it's just something for luck for when she flies. She's a pilot, and one of the persons says, "What's that supposed to be?" Finian asks. "It's a dragon," I reply. "Present from my mom. He's for luck." "It's a stupid toy. How's it supposed to?" "Shut up, Finian." "Okay, are you hitting on me? It feels like you might be hitting on me." So it's just silly things like that, just back and forth that you don't want to stop reading. It's a great book.
That it's almost like Guardians of the Galaxy for teens.
Yeah, that
Kind
is
of.
true.
But not really.
Fun way to
But
look
yeah.
at it. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Well, hello, it's me. Well, I'm going to compare it to any superhero I can ever. Any of these books, I will compare them to superheroes. You're welcome.
I mean, there's no trash panda, but you know.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like maybe that's Finian in this.
I think you're right.
Maybe.
All right, what's our next book, Miss Shay?
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I was excited. I was just thinking about all the books I wanted to reread about from Jay Kristoff.
All right, this book is completely not anything I would have ever picked up or ever before. Anybody who knows me knows I'm not a chick flick person. I'm not a huge romance book person. I love realistic fiction, but sometimes the sappy romances just are too sappy. So I was going around before spring break, bringing as many books as I possibly could home, not knowing what the future would bring. I'm glad I grabbed more than I really could read. And I saw this one, and it was new, and I just gotten it, and I thought, well, I'll try it, because there are kids who like these books.
Oh, it sounds like we're having some technical difficulties.
With me? Okay. Who is the technical difficulty with? Can you hear me?
I guess it's me. So keep going.
Okay. So anyway, I picked this up and I loved it. It is a sappy romance. You can tell by the cover, but it brings in a ton of football. And I am a huge, huge football fan. I play fantasy football. I can call the plays. I can call the penalties. I'm in there yelling at the screen with all the guys. I love football. So in this particular book, she's a softball star. She's a third baseman. So she's got to have a wicked arm to get it, the ball to first when it's hit. And in the very first scene of the book, she gets in this knockdown drag out in a championship game with another girls softball team, and they were playing almost for the championship. And she punches this girl because she's making fun of her sister. And it's a private school, so she gets thrown out. They have a zero tolerance policy. She gets thrown out of the school, and she loses her little scholarship to the private school. And now she has to go to public school. And so she knows a lot of people that go there, if they're in her neighborhood, they've come to the games before. But when she goes there, she already has a reputation for having a great arm. And the main quarterback has been injured. And he goes up to her one day while she's running the track, thinking she'll run cross country to earn her way back into the sports scene. And he says, "Hey, we need somebody who can throw, and we want you to come in and try to be the quarterback." And she laughs and "You're kidding me." But she goes in, and of course, because it's one of those kinds of books, she's great at it, and she makes the team. And she just, befriends a bunch of the guys on the team. But the other player, the receiver who's on the team, who's like this all-star receiver, he's her ex-boyfriend. Drama. And so, it's just one of those books, and it's funny and it's cute and it's very realistic. I don't like sappy romances. This one's a little bit more realistic with a little drama thrown in about the reasons why that quarterback is really injured. And good family. Oh, the family in this is really great. And like I said, lots of great play-by-play football scenes with her throwing. Sarah Henning, the author, used to be, I believe, a sports journalist. And so she writes and she understands it. But all her other books are fantasy, weird, siren kind of books. So very not this at all. I think this was her first one that's realistic fiction. And I have, of course, the physical copy of this, but Miss Youngblood from Keller High School, who's operating our chat right now, told me that she has gone in and purchased it for Sora, so that it should be available probably by next week if you would like to check out a copy in Sora. So it's a great book. You should give it a shot.
And I'm glad you said it's not like a over-the-top romance, because I look at this cover and I'm like, wow, like that makes me uncomfortable. They're a little too close. They definitely are not 6 feet apart. So they're not social distancing. But no, since it's not over the top romance, I probably would even like it. I like football. I like when girls can show that they can do things just like anybody else. So I'm excited.
It's good. You'll love it.
Oh my gosh, Stepsister. I don't even know where to start. I love this book so much. So I'm going to tell you now, I have an addiction to retellings. Good retellings. I'm going to say that there. Because I've had some retellings where I'm like, okay, I see what you did there, but okay. But Stepsister, it's exactly what it looks like. You see that glass slipper, you see the stepsister. So Ella, at the very first of the book, it goes into the whole, like, one stepsister cuts off her toes to fit in the slipper, or one stepsister cuts off the heel. And pretty much we all know Ella, Cinderella, gets to go marry the prince. And so this is what happens afterward. And so Ella is the queen, and everybody in their village remembers how the ugly stepsisters were. And so pretty much they've been shunned from the whole town. Like, some people won't even sell them if the baker gives them burned bread, and they can barely get eggs. And people have just, shunned them completely, and their mothers completely lost it. But the really cool thing, I think what I love most about this book is the two stepsisters. The author really tried to show, because they kind of played off in a world where beauty matters and a woman's supposed to be silent. These two stepsisters are anything but. So the main stepsister, she used to play, with wooden swords as a kid. She used to play with one of the stable boys. They would plan wars, and she loved reading about generals. And then the other sister loved algebra and anything math. And I really loved that the author played these. But I think what's the most fun about this book is a side story in this whole thing is the three fates have written their story. And Isabella is supposed to die and have a miserable life because of this whole Cinderella thing. But Chance is a person, and he is in charge of Chance. He steals her life map, and he wants to recreate it. So he's there, and then the fates are there trying to manipulate things. And then she, of course, is trying to write her own story. So it was a great retelling, strong characters, girl or boy. I think you would really love this book just because of just the strong personalities and the strong characters. I liked glimpsing into the world, and I liked that little side story with fate and chance. And I like that she kind of paved her own way. So it was a really good retelling. And I just like Jennifer Donnelly. Like, she's one of my favorite authors too. So, but this book, like, I think I read it in one night. I just enjoyed it that much.
Did you know there's another book out I saw when I was looking at this stuff called Poisoned, and I think it's a retelling of Snow White?
Yes. Dude, seriously, I love me some I could just go through my list of all the retellings I just love, but this one, it's in my top now. It's in my top 3.
I explained to my students when I was book talking this one, I made sure to tell them, I was like, okay, how many of you know the story of Cinderella and like Disney Cinderella? Okay, how many of you know Grimm's Cinderella? So I, talk about a little bit about Grimm's and how, they actually cut off pieces of their feet. Like, what? That's so gross. I'm like, yeah, it's awesome.
Well, they wanted to marry the prince, and I also love that they realized that they didn't need anybody but themselves. And I really appreciated that.
So in my library, the Deep Blue series that she wrote is very popular, the Mermaid series. I haven't read it, but I know that's real popular. And then I also found out that she wrote a book called Lost Stories. It's a Beauty and the Beast edition. Belle is going through Beast's library, and she finds an enchanted book that literally draws her in and that she can't get back. It kind of sounds like Inkheart, but she wrote that too. So I didn't know if I had never heard of that until then. So
Inkheart, that's another good one.
Oh gosh, I haven't read that in forever.
Yeah, it's so good. It was a terrible movie, but isn't that always the case?
Except I respect Harry Potter. Like, I can watch that, and I'm like, you know what? They did a solid.
You have to do it 2 different entities. Book is one thing, movie is another.
Yeah.
All right, Little White Lies. How pretty is that cover? That's a girly thing of me to say, but
no, it's pretty. it drew me in. That's how I started reading it.
Oh, and it's so different from Jennifer Lynn Barnes's other series of like serial killers. Those covers are very different. So I was like, oh, really?
But is it? No, I'm just kidding.
It is actually. Okay, so let me read my little blurb here. Sawyer Taft, an 18-year-old mechanic, lives with her eccentric mother. She is ready to go off to college, but with no funds to actually go. Enter grandmother, aka a life's worth of drama and one elegant high society lady. Her grandmother, whom she knows nothing about, offers her all the money she needs for college if Sawyer agrees to go back home with her and go through her debutante season. I don't know about you guys, but debutantes, I was like, seriously, am I about to read this? But shocking herself, Sawyer agrees, but she has an ulterior motive, finding out who her dad is. In a small society of Debs, the choices are few and full of scandal, much like everyone else in this society. The more Sawyer uncovers, she finds herself in other covered in lies, scandal, and with more questions than when she started. So I know you have it up here as realistic. I still think of this one as mystery. It's definitely a realistic type of mystery, but I love the little trying to figure this out and figure that out. There's thrilling parts and lots of adventure pieces. But again, I love the voice of it. I don't know what it is. I love sarcasm, sarcastic girls. The sarcasm gets me every time. It speaks my language. Sarcasm is my first language. So I can get into that. This book is very sarcastic. Kind of reminds me of Pretty Little Liars.
Uh-huh.
Kind of that.
But better.
Yeah, but better.
Yeah, but better.
But with personality and fun.
Yeah.
And a mystery. Well, I guess Pretty Little Liars had mystery.
And I wish I could explain a little bit more about what she starts to unravel, but I can't because that would give away stuff toward the end. But I can say I definitely didn't see some of that coming. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I loved her strong personality.
You what?
I loved her strong personality. Like, I feel like because of her mom being so eccentric, like she's a protector. So like if someone comes up to bully her friend, she's going to punch first and ask questions later. But I really like her just, she's so strong. And I think like Lauren said, you think debutantes and you're like, oh, this is girly. It barely touched on that because when I saw this book and I was like, really? Because I am not about that. And then I was like, oh, because it talks about it like for a second, but then it's surrounded by the mystery and then just the people in that type of world. So I liked it.
Yeah, it was good.
And that she just, most of the books that are a little more girly, they describe the dresses and stuff that they're wearing to these balls. And she's like, and I'm in this dress and I hate it. It's so uncomfortable. It's what we're really thinking.
Yeah.
It definitely kept me on the edge of my seat. I didn't see it coming. It's a great mystery. I did see Jennifer Lynn Barnes speak at North Texas Teen Books Festival 2 years ago. And they were, and her other series are like Lauren said, they are serial killer. It's about a teenage profiler. I mean, it's like serious fun serial killer stuff, if that can really be a thing. Kind of is in my brain. Sorry to admit. Maybe I'm not so sorry to admit. You know this about me.
Sorry.
But one of the things she said, she tries in her books to put in the plot twist in the middle, because she feels like that's when the plot usually starts to dry up for a lot of books that she has read. So she puts her plot twist in the middle so that it keeps people reading. Mm-hmm. And then when somebody asked her about the weirdest thing she's ever Googled whenever she was writing about serial killer stuff, she said it was kind of scary for her because she wasn't sure how, anyone monitoring Google searches would think about her Googling how to dissolve bodies with acid and the layout of the White House at the same time.
Oh, you know what? I was there for that. Now I remember. Yeah. How funny.
Yeah, I thought that was funny because, that's that would be a little weird.
Questions and author panels. I'm like, what weird things have you done?
Oh my gosh. I'm sure they each have a story.
Uh-huh.
All right, Hope Nation. I know that my colleagues are very surprised that I wanted to talk about this book because for various reasons, but I wanted to throw in a nonfiction book because there's some good nonfiction books that are out there, and I'm not a huge nonfiction book fan, But I really enjoyed reading this. The reason why I read it in the first place was because I was just researching some short stories by specific authors and trying to see what, how many short stories are written by certain authors. But she put together this book. She asked all of the YA authors that you see listed there to come in and write their own stories about hope. So they're all autobiographical in nature. I don't believe any of them are fiction. And they're just telling stories from their own lives when they had to experience hope and how hope played a part in parts of their lives. I'm not going to read you all the quotes, I promise, but there are some amazing stories. Libba Bray, she is from Denton, Texas, actually, and she was going to go to school at UNT. And right before she graduated high school, she got in a horrible car accident. She basically ran straight into a pole on a rainy day because someone ran a stop sign, and completely, she talks about in there how if the steering wheel had been a little higher or a little lower, she would have died. So they said she was lucky. And in her eyes, she wasn't. She lost half her face. She had to get a fake eye. And the whole thing is a story of her struggling with that and finding hope. And hers is my favorite because she says things like, there's so much hope in a laugh. And things like hope is a muscle that you have to exercise. And then she talks about how writing took her through it. And she said, hope is a pen. And then she said, hope's best friend is forgiveness. So there's some amazing quotes in hers. Ali Condi, Ali Condi lost her grandfather at the same time her little sister was born. So she was experiencing horrible loss and then birth of a sibling at the same time, and happiness and sadness. And she said, hope can be born even when things have gone and you can't have them back. Yeah. Marie Lu, her parents were from China, and they came over, and she talks about how they had to build a foundation on a completely different playing field than what they were in China. Jeff Zentner writes in there, he actually put his, when he came to Yak Fest several years ago, he wrote a keynote, and the piece in here is basically his keynote. So I like to take responsibility for encouraging him for writing this, but I'm just kidding. But he did write it that year. Allie Carter writes about some things in here. Julie Murphy writes, I'm not done.
We're running out of time.
Okay. Julie Murphy writes something too. It's really good. And now I'm done.
Yeah. The author is, I like the editor. I mean, she's a really cool lady too. So I'm going to go really fast on Neverworld Wake, especially since we, the three of us have very differing opinions. So this is like, it's sci-fi, but it is seriously like Groundhog Day meets like every weird sci-fi thing you could ever think of. So there's these group of friends have a secret, and it caused the death of one of their friends the previous year. So it's their freshman year in college, and the main character that's telling the story decides to go see that group of friends again. And they go out, and on their way home, they get into a wreck, which causes them to go into the Neverworld Wake, where they're having to relive the same 11 hours over and over and over until they vote on one person to live and the rest of them have to die. And you can only imagine the grief and the craziness that ensues. Disbelief, you literally go crazy. And then I'm not going to tell you the rest, but it was such a great, it was like Groundhog Day meets We Were Liars. It seriously, like, probably the best book I read this summer. I really enjoyed it.
Meh.
I know. But see, I liked it. Go.
All right, with the Fire and High, another beautiful cover. I love that cover. It's so pretty. All right, so Imani Santiago is a high school senior and a teen mom. She has help from her abuela, whom she lives with, but budgets are tight and college is just around the corner. Imani has a passion for cooking and enjoys putting her own Puerto Rican spin and love in her food. When she cooks, it's magic. Her high school has decided to offer some new courses, including a culinary arts program, which offers the chance to participate in a week-long adventure of cooking classes by top chefs in Spain. Imani struggles with trying to keep up with her ambitions, being a mom, a family provider, friend, and a high school student. With the encouragement of her friend Angelica and her could-be romantic interest, Malachi, she sets her sights on striving to graduate and pursue her passion in cooking. This one is another one I would recommend doing an audio with, because Elizabeth Acevedo, the author, she narrates her own story, and her voice in it is so beautiful. And she talks about the cooking, and you can hear her passion behind how she says things. And then there's little, every now and then between chapters, there's some recipes for some of the stuff that they put in there. A very beautifully written book. Realistic fiction is not usually my thing, but this one kept my interest the whole time because I was very invested in the main character and learning more about the culture that was in it. So that was very well done. Love this.
Yeah,
one.
I always love culture.
Was it a novel in verse?
No.
Okay, her other one was, right? Poetex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say I found out that she was a National Poetry Slam champion.
What?
Yes.
Kudos.
Has another one that came out today, another book birthday, and that one is Clap When You Land. I have the arc, and I can't wait to read it. I know. Ha ha ha.
All right, last book to talk about tonight is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I listened to the audio of this book, and it did have some sound effects on it and stuff. It was pretty cool. There is a girl named Addie who was murdered 5 years ago, and the person who the whole town believes was her murderer also died 5 years ago, and he actually ended up killing himself, which means to the town, well, that must mean that he did it because he sent a text to his dad and said, I did it. But the main character 5 years later is a senior in high school, and she's writing her senior thesis, and she wants to investigate this because she does not believe that Sal did it. And she tends to, and because Addie's body was never discovered, she thinks Addie is still out there somewhere. So she goes in and she starts doing this investigation under the guise of, it's my senior thesis. Can I ask you some questions, please? And she opens the case up again. And so it's basically reads like a case file. She does things through phone calls and texts and recordings of phone calls and stuff. And the audio has it sounding like you're listening to a phone call, even has the whoosh of text messages being sent out and coming back in when it's a text message that's being read aloud, which you can imagine is hard to do in audio, but that's how they do it. But yeah, she starts to befriend Sal's brother and his younger brother, and he finally believes that this girl's out there really trying to help his long gone brother to be redeemed, and he helps her. And boy, I did not see it coming. And then even when you think it's over, you're like, oh, okay, I can see how that works. It keeps going, and then there's more to be discovered. So it's really good. Like I said, I did listen to audio, and it was worth it. I haven't read it in print, but it was great.
Now, okay, I've written it down because now I have to go read it.
I know, and I know it. I think I saw it in Sora, so I'm super excited.
Well, this is Holly Jackson's first book, so there's no others by her. But gosh, I'm going to read. She listens to true crime podcasts all the time, so you can tell by reading this that she does.
I'm excited. Like I had, there's two of those books I haven't read, and I think they're right on my TBR.
Audrey, let us know if we have anything from the chat that we need to answer, any questions, anything we need to discuss real quick.
Any shout outs?
There are some shout outs to our librarians like Diana and Suzanne. Carolyn Carr are on.
Oh, yay!
And we have some students. We have students from Hillwood and from Keller High School. We have a former student from Hillwood who is here just for Miss Harris.
Is it Nor? Is it Nor?
I don't know. I guess you'll have to go find out. Carolyn Carr just took the book from Libby. So maybe Nora as well.
Nice.
And let's see. I was waiting to see if anyone had any special requests for book recommendations.
Yeah.
It looks like we had some recommendations for Caraval by Stephanie Garber. Y'all have any tidbits about Caraval or any other books like Caraval?
Oh my gosh, Scarlet. I want to be Scarlet. No, I love that book. I mean, it's like a whole world that it just blew me away. And I reread it. Like that's one of my feel-good books. Like if I need to pick me, I read that book and I love it. Oh my gosh.
It's a little girly for me. And it's very Alice in Wonderlandish, which is just a little so weird, but I don't know. I love the author so much. Meeting her, she was such a very sweet, genuine person that I'm like, oh, okay, I just taints it in a little bit of a better.
No, it's in my top 10. I own a signed copy.
I may have to try it again. It was too early for me as well. I didn't like the way the sisters treated each other. I didn't like their relationship. It made me sad.
It was kind of creepy.
No, No, it's not. I love it.
So much description about the dresses. And I was like, I don't care what you're wearing. No.
No, I just love that. I felt like I was in Carnival and Monte Carlo and on a you get one wish on this magical island. Like I would do it. Put me in a book. I will do that book.
All right, well, it looks like that wraps it up for tonight. I want to go ahead and let them know about next week and tuning in, same time, same place.
Yes, 8 p.m.
Yeah, we're hoping eventually, guys, we're going to try to get some authors to join us. And when we get back access to the school, we have lots of books we could give away as well, but
yeah,
can't do that right now. So eventually it's coming.
Maybe to some of our frequent flyers. So spread the word. We would love to get you some books and some of these great books that we're recommending in your hands. But just one more plug, like if you don't have Sora, it's free. Libby's free from the public library. All of these books are on there, not maybe on Sora, but definitely on Libby too. Please go get them. You don't have to go anywhere. Or I know that KPL, Keller Public Library, is doing like drive-through books. So go get them, keep reading.
Even if you're on Sora, make sure to add your public library cards on there, because then you can connect them and they're all in one place, which is what I love to do.
Yes.
And add the Houston Digital Media Catalog, which is all you need is a parent's driver's license, and that gives you a library card that you can use for anything I've found a lot of books there that I couldn't find through Keller or for the Fort Worth Public Library.
With your parents' permission, please.
Yay.
Well, yeah, there is that.
And don't drive with their driver's license. You don't look like them. You think you do.
One of my girls emailed me and said, my parents don't have a Texas driver's license because they're from out of state, but my brother does. I said, well, use his.
Here's what you got.
I love it. All right. So Tuesday nights at 8 p.m., we'll have a new battery of books to recommend to you. And we'd also love to hear about your favorites. And like I said, follow us on Twitter. And we will see you next time.
Bye.